What happens when a young man stumbles upon a magical crown and gains control over terrifying giants? A kingdom's fate hangs in the balance as power, secrets, and ancient legends collide. Will Jack save the world or unleash chaos? A child named Jack appears at the beginning of the movie. His father was a farmer, and Jack loved listening to stories, especially those about barons and kings. One story in particular inspired him. It was from the time when a king ruled over a country. During this king's reign, some pastors created beans that were no ordinary beans. They were magical beans, and the purpose behind them was to challenge God by reaching heaven. They planted these beans, which grew into a towering tree. The giant tree shot up into the sky. The pastors believed its path led to heaven. As they climbed the tree, they realized that there was another world between earth and heaven, a dangerous place inhabited by giants who were much taller than humans. When the giants encountered them, they quickly recognized the humans and discovered the way to earth. They came down and wreaked havoc, destroying everything and even began killing and eating humans. Witnessing this destruction, the king's knights killed one of the giants. Afterward, the pastors practiced sorcery on its heart, extracting it. They created a magical crown from that heart. The most shocking part was when the king, wearing that crown, went before the giants. The giants knelt before him and accepted him as their king because of the power of the crown. The king then commanded the giants to return to their own land. After their departure, the king had the tree cut down. The king saved the seeds of that tree forever. Those seeds and the crown were buried with him in his coffin after his death. This story became a favorite of the princess, just like it was for Jack. As part of Jack's ancestry, the princess's mother used to tell her this story. 10 years later, Jack, now grown up, is seen traveling to a city to sell his horse. Upon reaching the city, he notices that a play about the same king, whose stories were told to him in his childhood, is being performed. Jack enters the theater to watch the play. Among the audience is a girl who is actually the princess, disguised so no one can recognize her. Soon, some people begin to tease the princess. Jack steps forward to defend her, but a boy punches him in the face. Everyone kneels as Jack threatens them. Jack believes they are afraid, but he later realizes that they had come with the princess, which was the reason for their kneeling. Then, Roderick appears, whom the princess's father had hoped to marry his daughter. However, the princess doesn't like him and is unwilling to marry him. Roderick enters his study room, only to find everything in disarray. He quickly figures out something is wrong and discovers a crown in a plant pot, made from the giant's heart a year ago. However, something is missing from the book. Roderick orders his courtiers to lock down the entire city and search for the pastor. Meanwhile, a pastor approaches Jack while he is in the city selling his horse. The pastor says, "I want to buy your horse." Jack responds, "There should be a price for it." But the pastor has no money. Instead, he gives Jack some beans and tells him, "You will get your payment once you give these beans to your father." Jack asks, "Who pays with beans?" The pastor replies, "These are not ordinary beans. They are magical. They are powerful enough to change the entire world. They are rare, so never lose them, and above all, never dip them in water." The pastor then leaves, taking Jack's horse. As Jack moves forward, he is caught by his uncle, who becomes furious when Jack returns home. "What is this? You bring beans instead of a horse? That pastor has tricked you." In his anger, Jack's uncle throws the beans on the ground. Jack starts to gather them, but one falls through a crack in the wooden floor, unnoticed by him. Meanwhile, it's raining outside. The princess, unwilling to marry Roderick, has sneaked out of her house. She takes shelter from the rain in the wooden house where the bean falls. Jack recognizes her as the princess, and they begin to converse. Suddenly, rainwater seeps through the crack in the wooden floor and touches one of the beans. As the pastor had warned, the bean should never come into contact with water. Once it does, the bean starts to grow rapidly. The roots of the growing beanstalk spread beneath the house, lifting it up as the tree grows. The princess gets trapped inside the house as it rises, and despite Jack's attempts to save her, she is carried upwards with the tree. The next morning, the princess's father, the king, arrives. He notices the tallest tree, which seems to stretch endlessly into the sky. Jack tells him the entire story, and the king immediately arranges a rescue mission. "Go and save my daughter," he commands. Roderick, eager to rescue his future wife, says, "I will also go to save her because I love her." Jack, wanting to join them, accompanies them. While climbing the beanstalk toward the sky, Roderick deliberately cuts the rope, causing some knights to fall to their deaths. Eventually, they reach the place between earth and heaven as planned. Upon reaching their destination, Roderick says to Jack, "I know you have those magical beans. Give them to me." Roderick grabs the beans, threatening Jack with a knife. However, Jack secretly keeps one bean for himself. The groups, each consisting of 3 members, split up to search for the princess. Danger lurks everywhere. A giant appears before Jack's group, capturing both of Jack's companions. Jack follows the giant, determined to find the princess no matter what. Jack knows the princess will likely be hidden where the giant is headed. Meanwhile, Roderick and his companions are shown. Roderick pushes one of his companions down, revealing he was not truly on his side. Then a giant appears before them and kills Roderick's companion right in front of him. The giant is about to kill Roderick, but he pulls out a magical crown, the same crown made from the giant's heart 1,000 years ago. The king had created this crown, which holds a spell. It's clear that the giants will obey whoever possesses this crown. Wearing the crown, Roderick reaches a place where a crowd of giants is gathered. The princess, along with one of Jack's companions, is also present, having been captured by a giant. All the giants kneel before Roderick, acknowledging him as their king. Roderick commands the leader of the giants to kneel, and it obeys. He steps onto the leader's head and declares, "I am your king from now on. We will go to Earth and rule over everyone." A giant then takes the princess and Jack's companion into a kitchen. Jack arrives just in time to see the giant about to eat his companion. With determination, Jack grabs a large knife and attacks the giant, stabbing it and instantly defeating it. This allows Jack to rescue his companion. The 3 of them then make their way to a place where they can return to Earth through the tree. However, a large giant is sleeping there, blocking their path. They can't escape without waking it. So Jack and his companion come up with a plan. They take a wasp hive and release the wasps into the giant's face after removing its armor. As a result, the giant awakens, causing a commotion. Losing its balance, the giant falls toward the earth. The king notices this and realizes that the giants are trying to descend. He orders his knights to cut down the tree, understanding that if the giants reach Earth, they will destroy everything, and no one will be able to stop them. The fighter suggests to the princess and Jack, "Go to Earth while I stay here. I must stop Roderick at any cost. He will bring disaster to the world if he comes to Earth." He adds, "I know his tricks." The fighter stays behind while the princess and Jack begin their descent down the beanstalk. Reluctantly, the king agrees to cut down the tree, knowing it poses a grave threat to the entire world and could cause immense destruction. Meanwhile, Roderick is preparing to bring the giants to Earth. However, the fighter is still hidden. He attacks Roderick just before the giants begin to descend and kills him. The crown falls from Roderick's head, signaling the end of his reign. On Earth, the knights successfully cut down the tree, causing it to fall steadily. The fighter falls along with the tree. Soon, the princess and Jack also begin to fall with it, but all 3 of them survive. Meanwhile, the leader of the giants seizes the crown, placing it on his finger. All the giants accept him as their king, but they are unable to reach Earth due to the tree being cut down. They discover a small pouch containing the same magical beans. The giant king throws the beans into the water. Immediately, giant trees begin to grow, and the giants direct the trees toward Earth, preparing to proceed. The king, overjoyed, retrieves his daughter and thanks Jack for his help. However, he is unaware that Jack and the princess have begun to develop feelings for each other. Jack, unaware of the king's plans, bids farewell to the princess and leaves. On his way home, Jack notices that the trees are once again making their way toward Earth. He realizes that this is happening because of the beans Roderick had taken, and now the giants are preparing to come to Earth again. Riding his horse, Jack rushes to inform the king of the impending danger. He reaches the princess and the king and warns, "The giants have come." Meanwhile, the giants have surrounded the area and are starting to bring destruction. The king and Jack quickly gallop toward the palace, hoping to reach safety before the giants can harm them. The palace is the only place where they can find refuge, as the giants will target the king's family, the same family where the story began. The giants will never forgive the king for sending them away while wearing the crown. Just as they reach the palace, Jack is left behind. He orders for the beanstalk through which they had traveled to be pulled back. Jack climbs just in time before the giant's head catches the beanstalk. The fighter, still determined to protect them, orders arrows to be fired continuously. The arrows strike, and the leader of the giants falls into the water. There is a blazing fire, preventing the giant from escaping that spot, so the giant begins to search for another way out, moving through the water. As the door is being pulled towards the giants with the help of ropes, the king's knights are desperately trying to pull it back to protect the palace. Meanwhile, the giants throw burning trees at the palace. One giant hurls a burning tree at the palace wall, smashing it with a powerful strike. The king, witnessing this destruction, feels a sense of despair, realizing it will be difficult to stop the giants. He turns to the princess and says, "Go into that room. There is a secret path that will lead you to a fire torch. Light it to alert the people that we are in danger." Jack and the princess head off to complete their task. As they make their way to the fire torch, the earth suddenly begins to tremble. The fallen leader of the giants, who had been submerged in the water, is now emerging, tearing through the ground. Upon emerging, he grabs both Jack and the princess. In a desperate move, Jack takes out the last magical bean he has kept safe. Just as the giant is about to eat him, Jack throws the bean into its stomach. The giant experiences an odd sensation as the bean takes effect inside its body, causing it to release both Jack and the princess. To their horror, trees begin to grow inside the giant's stomach, splitting its body apart. The cut hand of the giant, still holding the magical crown, falls near Jack. Meanwhile, all the giants have entered the palace, facing the king and his knights. The knights stand bravely, knowing they are facing certain death. But then, something unexpected happens. All the giants suddenly kneel down in submission. They are confused and unsure of what just occurred. Turning around, they see Jack standing with the magical crown in his hands. Jack places the crown on his head and commands, "Go back to your state!" At his command, the giants return to their land, and all the trees are cut down, marking the end of the giant invasion. Afterward, Jack and the princess get married and live happily together. They have 2 children to whom Jack tells the stories of the giants, just as he had heard them in his childhood. The children ask, "Where is that crown?" Jack replies, "The crown is still safe. It's a marvelous creation, and it's kept on display for everyone to see. People come from far and wide just to get a glimpse of it, but its true power remains a mystery." The movie ends with this melodramatic tale, leaving the truth of the crown's magic forever undiscovered. Thanks for watching, stay tuned and subscribe for more epic stories like this.